Hello, today we are going to be looking at analyzing a sonatina. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to get out your grade 8 RCM book. If you have this book, you're going to turn to page 22. And if you have this book, interestingly enough, you're still going to be turning to page 22. So whichever way you do it, we are going to be looking at Sonatina in E flat by Jan Ladislav Düssek. So here we have Opus 20 number 6 and the first movement. When we are dealing with first movements, most of the time they are in sonata form. Now, we need to recap what is in sonata form from our History 9. We have three big sections: exposition, development, and recapitulation. In the exposition, we open in the tonic key and have theme 1. So we are going to have delightful 4-bar phrases typically in our classical literature, cadences that we can find, and this little thing is used often to help us see where the big cadences are. Now, our first theme tends to be just a single theme, and then the next thing that happens after a cadence, because every element must end with a cadence, we go into a connecting section called a bridge. Now the bridge is just like when we have a bridge that connects Canada to the United States. One side of it's one place and one side of it's the other. With regards to a bridge in sonata form, one side is in the tonic key and the other side is in a new key. If our original key is a major key, our new key typically is the dominant, and at this grade we are expecting it to be typical. If we are in a minor key, when we modulate to the relative major. So that is something to keep track of, because a lot of people start looking for the dominant regardless of where we've started, and that doesn't happen in the classical period. So our bridge is going to open typically in the home key and end, it has to end with a cadence of some sort, and usually it leads us to hear the new key. Then we come to theme 2. Now theme 2 is in our new key, and as stated before, if it was major, we'll now be in the dominant, and if it was minor, we'll now be in the relative major. And we're going to go through the theme 2. Now, frequently, even sonatinas, the composers had more ideas in their minds with regards to melodies. And so they just didn't hold themselves to one melody in the theme 2 area. Sometimes they had more than one. And then we call it a theme group, and the first melody is called theme 2A. So it's the second key, but the first melody. And the second one comes around would be 2B, the second key, but the second melody. We can certainly get to a 2C for sure if we have a nice grade 8 or grade 9 sonata movement and our hands to look at. And every one of those components, I'm going to say it again, will end with a cadence. Now they won't all be authentic cadences, some of them will be half cadences, but we are looking for cadences that have a leading tone in it. And often at the end of the exposition, we have a little area that's just a little tail that says 5-1, 5-1, 5-1 in the new key, and that we call it codetta. At university, they will call it potentially a cadential extension, because it really doesn't do anything other than just extend the cadence and hammer home what key we're in. So knowing those things, let's look at sonatina in E flat major. So the first thing that we observe is that our exposition, of course, begins with the first note, and it will end at the repeat sign, which in our books, yes, is always at the end of page 23. So our exposition is a full 2 pages long. Now we have theme 1. Well, how long does theme 1 go for? The first thing that you want to just sort of keep in your back pocket is understanding that they did like regular phrases, and so somewhere around 4, 8, 12, and 16, those are often the numbers that we're looking at for phrases when we're hunting for our cadences. So when we do this, we hear that certainly as phrase 1. We also notice that the left hand finger 5 stayed on the E flat. This is an example of a tonic pedal point that goes for all of those 4 bars plus the downbeat of measure 5. And it helps us to set this in our ear. In this period of time, they were just starting to get to embrace all the different keys that were possible because of the tonality that came into being in the time of Bach. And there were still some keys that were more common than others, and this was not as common as some of the others. Are we finished theme 1? I don't think so. There isn't a strong enough cadence there. So let's continue on and just say second part of theme 1. We haven't gone anywhere else. There's our half cadence in the key of E flat major. And then we notice what happens next. Sorry. It sounds like the beginning. Well, there's a certain percentage of the time, and I would say somewhere around 30 to 40% of the time, the bridge starts with the same melody as theme 1, and then it goes off in a new direction. And that's how we have this balance of something familiar and something that's changing. So in here, we would start the bridge at the upbeat to measure 11 at. And then we hear the E flat major still there. And now it changes. So bridges do modulate through things, and we will often say, what is happening? We see accidentals. So as part of this, we can ask you to actually put in the Roman numbers for sections. So if we go back to measure 11, this would clearly be the 1 chord, and you wouldn't put any other inversions in, it would just be 1. And then on count 4, we would have the dominant 7th, BDFA. And I know that E flat was at the beginning of that, but that's just the pedal point. So that was 1, keep it 1, 5, 7, 1, still 1, 5, 7, 1, 1, 6 that time. Now we say in E flat major, I can go up a flat, down a flat for my closely related keys. So that means I can go to 2 flats, which would be B flat major and G minor, or 4 flats, which would be A flat major and F minor. And here the F sharp points us towards G minor. So that's your dominant 6. So 5, 6 going to a 5, 7 of G minor, which is 3 in E flat major. Now we have F, A, C, and then the E flat is added. So we ended up with the 5, 7 of B flat major, which is of 5. And now he continues on, changing our mind about what our true key is by having a descending little passage with lots of chromaticism in here. And right there, after all of those accidentals, we ended up with F, A, C isn't there, but we don't care, and E flat, F, A, C, E flat. We ended on the dominant 7th of B flat major, right before a grand pause, a fermata on a rest. So as soon as we get that, we go, look at that. Our bridge started with the tonic of E flat major, and it ended on the 5 in first inversion of B flat major. So it did what it was supposed to do. It has 1 foot in the old key and the other foot in the new key. So now, after that pause, and I will say, having rests in both hands at the same time is often a clue that we are dealing with the end of a section, especially big rests. If it's a 16th rest, maybe not, but use those like they are stop signs. So now at bar 19, we have a fortissimo theme in the key of B flat major. So I should have paused that. So all of that is theme 2. And just like the first theme, there seems to be 2 little phrases that go together to make it sound right. But I wasn't really at the end of that. And listen to this. Cadential 6/4 to 1. Now at this point, we actually have a new theme. So at 19, we have 2A. And at measure 29, we now have theme 2B. They're still both in B flat major. Over we go. And now we have a codetta because we just had 4, 5, 7, 1 in B flat major. And in there, you could hear all sorts of 5-1, 5-1, 5-1 going on. Now, we have an alternative way of looking at this. So it rather depends on the institution you're dealing with and the list that you have in front of you. We can call bar 19 theme 2, bar 29 a closing theme instead of 2B. The word closing theme comes up in many history books, so feel free to use that term as well. And the codetta here is where at 33, we could also just call it a cadential extension because it's just 5-1, 5-1, 5-1. So we want to just be aware of what it is like depending on whether you're thinking about looking at a book that is presented to you by the Royal Conservatory or whether it's one that has been printed with regards to a university program. So now we turn the page and we are at the development. So first of all, we need to actually suss this out because we've got a development plus recapitulation that all have to fit into one set of repeat signs. And this is 2 pages long as well. So that means that either the development is short or something is skipped in the recapitulation. The recapitulation is supposed to have the same parts as the exposition, but in the home key. Well, let's have a look at this. One of the things that I like to do is to go backwards. And so I say, before we start discussing the development, let's just find where the development ends and the recapitulation begins. So what we're doing is we're looking for something that looks exactly like bar 1, the very first bar. And I notice in bar 53 that we have a fermata over a rest in both hands. And after that, we have the familiar. So we have found our recapitulation at bar 54. And that means that our development is only 4 lines plus a couple of bars. And it would depend on which edition you're looking at. It might be longer or shorter depending on the typeset. So, you know what? While we're at it, we were just discussing all of the parts of the exposition. So I suggest while they're fresh in your mind, immediately do the sections on the recapitulation. So we're going to put theme 1 in E flat major in 54. Okay, so now let's see what that sounds like. So far, so good. That first section sounds exactly like it did at the beginning. Sorry. Okay, so now we have to look at this and say, what is going on? Where do we end up losing something? It doesn't feel right, does it? So my suggestion when you have a piece like this is you go backwards. know also that you will be given a very exact list if you're doing a theory exam, so you don't have this search to see what's missing. But you can see that our recapitulation is definitely shorter than it was originally. So I'm going to start at the end and see whether I've got a codetta. And the codetta at 33 sounds like this. And at 75, it sounds like this. So in there, the codetta has been transformed into a reference to theme 1. And we could say, what is the source of the material for measure 75 to the end? And you would say theme 1 as the source. Make sure you reference something the very first time it comes up. If you say theme 1, you're covering your bases because it refers to the same melody, whether it appears at the beginning or whether it appears at the beginning of the recapitulation. But make sure you are, if they ask for bar number, go all the way back to the first time. Don't just pick it out anywhere. Okay, so we've got that as the codetta. So now we go back and we say, what was theme 2 or the closing theme? Okay, does that happen anywhere here? We've got a... So in there, that's sounding just like our theme 2A and not like our 2B. So where would we start our 2A then? And is 2B the part that's missing? So I would say at bar 63 is where theme 2 begins. And it is in B flat major, notice. And we have people that will say, but it's not exactly like the one at the very beginning. So no, it's not identical to 19. But you can see that it's derived from it. It's got a bass accompaniment that is similar. It has a scale at the very beginning, and then it goes into these sections. So even though it's not an exact transposition to the tonic key, it is still theme 2. And we're just going to leave it as theme 2, and we're going to say that theme 2B was left out. And somehow the piece ended up balanced because the codetta was based on other thematic material. Remember, composers can do whatever they want to make things work out. And now we look and we say, well, do we have a bridge? And we look at the top of measure 58. So on page 25, we have... So that is definitely referring to page 15, to measure 15, which is in the bridge. So it just happens that the first part of the bridge is left off. So if we compare our recapitulation, theme 1 is 4 bars in the recapitulation, and it was 9.5 bars originally. So that accounts for how it got shortened right off the bat. The bridge, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, is 8 bars long in the exposition, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars long in the recapitulation. And then we just discovered that the theme 2A reappeared in a new way in the recapitulation, and that 2B just wasn't there at all, or closing theme. We do have a codetta again, but it was not the same material as the beginning. I often say that some of Düssek's writings remind me of Beethoven's style, that there were so many ways they had of saying the same thing in a new guise, and that they are really good at hiding what would be very traditional structure. They developed it further. So now at this point, we have bookended this, and we have to look back at our development. So in the development, we can clearly see that the opening of it is referring to theme 1. So the source of bar 37 is theme 1. And it sounds sounds like we've gone to G major. People go, whoa, that's really far. Well, it's true, but in the development, there are no rules. The composer can go to far away keys, stay close to home, sequence, not sequence. They can use material from your theme, from your bridge, from theme 2. And sometimes we have composers that just, they had a day where they had so many new melodies in their mind that they ended up putting new melodies in the development, and it really isn't a development, it is just a presentation of a whole new idea. So anything can happen here. So the G major is not that far away, it's okay. E flat majors, relative minor is C minor, and its dominant triad is G major. So it actually isn't as far away from home as one would think. And then we have, well, that's referring to our bridge material that is at the top of the second page. And then that goes away, and 40, 41, 42, at bar 43, we have a section that says soft and cantabile. So I'm going to say, just like your rests that happen in both hands are like a stop sign that has a flashing light on it saying, hello, we're stopping. Having a new Italian term is another thing that's saying, hi, I'm here. We want to actually do something new. This is a new theme. So if it says cantabile or dolce, maestoso, anything along that line that would change the character of the moment, you are at something new. So this actually is a whole new theme that is in the key of F minor and quite expressive. And it actually only is in F minor for one bar, and it flips into E flat major without even trying. And we are still in E flat major. And you could hear that leading to that. So this was a very brief development. We had a really cool F minor, but it was just briefly. And just by 2 notes changing, the E flat changing to D and the C flat changing to B flat, we ended up with the dominant 4-3 in E flat major. Aha, there's your dominant 6-5. So we're clearly back in E flat major, but the composer is still utilizing accidentals to color up what's going on. Now, what happens at bar 50? Well, we see a clear reference to the bridge material again, but now it has a new job. That left hand, you look at it and it goes, it's all B flats. And what is B flat in the key of E flat? It's the dominant. So this is another form of link that we call dominant preparation, because everything is happening over a dominant so that we hear 5-5-5, and we just want to hear the tonic come. And when it comes, we end up with the first phrase, for the first phrase again, the first melody. So when we do, sorry, there's your E flat major's dominant 7, and he's going to resolve that leading tone that happened right before the fermata. And that's all we get of theme 1. And you can hear that bridge immediately. So when we work through this, the whole idea of what sonata form is changes in one sonata to the next of the same composer, and certainly in one composer to the next. How Mozart used sonata form, Haydn, Beethoven, and indeed Kullak, Clementi, and Düssek. They all have individual traits. Some of them sort of seem to pair up. As I said, Düssek reminds me of Beethoven and is a great preparation for it. Understanding how to find your cadences and your themes is part of the grade 10 analysis section. And so we will be doing several of these before I lose you on Scores Without My Help. Thank you very much and enjoy the E-flat major sonatina by Düssek.